Hello everybody, welcome to another new player guide for Arkham Horror the card game. I am Justin, as always, joined by Travis and Brandon. Today we're going to be talking about a new player guide for Amanda Sharpe, the student from the Innsmouth Conspiracy cycle. With these new player guides, they are built with 2 copies of the core set and the cycle from which they came from, so we're not going to be including cards from Carcosa, the Dream Eaters, etc., etc. We're going to be doing content for that in the future, but right now we're focusing just on 2 cores and the cycle in which this investigator is from. As well, when you're watching this, you might have heard of something called the taboo list. We recommend when you just start out for the first time, ignoring the taboo list and just playing with the cards as printed. There's nothing wrong with that, and it's pretty fun. In addition, if you only have 1 copy of the core set, we recommend picking up another or proxying the cards you don't have. It'll make your deck more consistent, and consistency is key to winning. That's enough about me and this deck. Let's talk about Amanda Sharpe. Travis, I'll let you, because I just talked so much, why don't you talk about Amanda Sharpe?
She's got 2s. All her stats, which is pretty bad. And she's got 7 health, 7 insanity. It's a good place to start. Yellow Investigator. She gets to play secret cards 0 to 5. Neutral cards 0 to 5, and practice skills level 0 to 3. She's got a 33 deck size, I think. Might
30.
be just 30, I can't really see.
30, it's 30.
Yeah, anyway, her gimmick is at the start of the investigation phase, you draw a card, and then you discard the card that's currently beneath her, and choose a new card from your hand to put underneath her. And at the beginning of each of your skill tests, you get to commit the card that's underneath her without discarding it. So basically, you can use the card that you've committed 3 up to however many actions you take during your turn, and like maybe in the next Mythos phase.
I'm a good content creator. I've never played Amanda, but I did a run with her yesterday. She's really fun. I instantly was
I
like,
actually found the play patterns got like a little bit stale towards the 8th scenario, but she's very good.
I think that's very fair. The thing that I find that I can foresee with Amanda Sharpe is that she can kind of like fit whatever box you need to put her in, depending on the structure of the campaign, because of your like team composition. Because yes, like she's going to be a seeker, so like getting clues is good, but she can do other things too, because she can kind of just
she can fight.
Yeah, she adapts to what she's needed for in the time because she's an expert learner. What are her personals, Travis?
We have Obscure Studies, which commits for 3 wild. It is an event. At Fast, you play when you initiate a skill test, and then you swap the Obscure Studies with the card that's underneath her. And then her weakness is Whispers from the Deep, which it's a weakness that subtracts 1 from the skill test, and when you are looking for a card to put underneath Amanda, you must choose Whispers from the Deep if you can. So, Obscure Studies exists basically exclusively to eat Whispers of the Deep. You draw it and you hold on until you draw Whispers of the Deep, and then when you have to commit Whispers of the Deep, you go, surprise, here's Obscure Studies, and then I'll commit Whispers of the Deep to this test.
Alternatively as well, what you can do with this is, if you get Whispers of the Deep from the Deep at a time where you're like not relevant and you just want to like continue growing your kit, you obviously can leave Whispers from the Deep in there. And then the play pattern that I found quite common yesterday was using deduction for my ability, and then bringing deduction back into my hand at the start of the Mythos phase, and then just getting like even more deductions out of Amanda. So it's very good as a defensive. Obscure Study is very good as defensive to deal with Whispers from the Deep, but sometimes you get Whispers from the Deep in a moment where it doesn't matter, and then you can just be like, I suck this turn, that's fine. I can do other things, right?
That's fair. I wouldn't, in most cases, I wouldn't use the Obscure Studies offensively until after I've seen the Whispers from the Deep.
I think that's very fair. But yeah, because it also, definitely. I think there's a lot of play with it, but using it primarily as a defensive card is probably the safest option for when you're just starting out.
Yep.
All right, let's get to the level 0 cards. Travis, I'll throw these ones to you first.
Okay. I'll be honest, this deck is not ideal because Amanda Sharpe doesn't have a great card pool with just the core sets and Innsmouth Conspiracy. I believe the only other, like, you're basically boxed into exclusively the Curse archetype for yellow from Innsmouth, and then a handful of practice skills, which are like Promise of Power is off color, and which actually fits very well with the curse scheme. But also you can get like Overpower and Vicious Blow from the core set, and I think that's it. Yeah, we got Cryptic Grimoire. This is the untranslated card from the Innsmouth Conspiracy. Tome takes up 1 hand slot, 3 to play. Commits for a wild, which is always nice to have in Amanda, even though, like, you don't want your stats to be 3 for a turn, but sometimes they gotta. As an action, you can add a curse token to the Chaos bag, and as an action, if there are 10 curse tokens in the bag, you discard the Grimoire to write down that you translated the Grimoire, I think.
Yep.
And then you replace 5 of the curse tokens with bless tokens. Next up, we have the Cryptographic Cipher. This is one of your other big pile of hand slots. This card commits for a book, which is, like, analyzing the symbols of these cards is going to be a little more important than usual because you need to consider what goes under Amanda. Once you have a couple of your hand slots filled, it's important that your other hand slot cards commit for useful symbols. Both the Grimoire and the Cipher they commit for a wild and a book, which is useful because your primary function is going to be get clues. But anyway, the Cipher comes into play with 3 secrets on it. As a lightning bolt, you can exhaust it and spend a clue to investigate, giving the location +1 shroud for that investigation. Or as a normal action, you can exhaust it and spend a clue to investigate, giving the location -2 shroud. This one lets you, if you have a high book score, lets you squeeze in an extra investigate, which can be huge with deduction. Or you can just have a nice safe investigation. So, next card is one of our 2 contenders for the ally slot, the Eldritch Sophist. This guy comes for a brain symbol, which is pretty garbage for Amanda, but it is what it is. 4 money to play. Uses 3 secrets. You can exhaust them to move a secret or charge from an asset you control and play to another asset controlled by any investigator at your location. He takes a heart and 3 brains for you. This is mostly here to refuel the Cryptographic Cipher. It has some functions with some of the upgraded cards as well, but for the most part, he's just a barrier for the Cipher in this level 0 deck. The last card for this page is Deep Knowledge, our first real curse card. Like the Cryptic Grimoire is there to put curse tokens up, but man, spend actions to make the Chaos bag worse for your teammates is not a great place to
be. Yeah, they'll be like, what are you doing?
Not really what you want to be doing. That's there for the turn where you're like, okay, we've managed to get 8 curse tokens in the bag. I'll spend 2 actions to top it up and then, pop it. But Deep Knowledge commits for brain in the book. Again, the book symbol is solid, brain symbols, whatever. As additional cost to play, you put 2 clue tokens into the Chaos bag, and investigators at your group or at your location draw 3 cards as a group from divide as you choose. This one is quite strong in Amanda, and generally quite strong. Just being able to give resources to your teammates is a good thing to have, good option to have. And for Amanda in particular, you get an extra card to basically make up for her ability, but because so many of your cards you're going to be wanting committed to tests, you want that extra card to drop pretty badly. Even if it's just to have more options.
Yeah. Next up, we got the Truth Beckons. This is a 1-cost event that commits for a book and a foot. As always with Amanda, you're going to want to be looking at what the cards commit for, because there's a chance you might have to put one of them underneath you. It's play only if you are not engaged with an enemy and you move. Choose an unrevealed location, move 1 location at a time along the shortest path toward that location until you enter that location. End this effect if you reveal a location, if an enemy engages you, or if your movement is blocked. So this is just a way that if you need to move quickly along the map, this is a way that you can have a little button to press if that comes to it. Plan of action is now we're getting into some of the skills that you can really benefit with putting under Amanda Sharpe. Plan of action is really nice. It commits for a while, but then depending on when it is committed, it changes its symbol. So it's if it's committed before or during your first action of this turn, it gets a brain and a foot, which means it's now a guts for the Mythos phase. If the skill test is between the first and third actions of the turn, you get a wild and you draw a card if it succeeds. And then if the skill test is during or after the third action of this turn, it gets a fist and a book. So it's great for probably getting clues, because that's what you're going to be doing in this deck. This is a great one to put underneath Amanda, and you're going to want to be looking. you're going to want to try, if you can, to save your like good stuff to be put underneath her, as opposed to just committing plan of action to just pass a test, right? This stuff is better used beneath Amanda, especially once you start getting like Dr. Milan Christopher and your magnifying glass in play, because then you like actually can just take full advantage of them. Promise of Power is, it's going to sound a bit like spooky adding like 3 curse tokens, but getting, I mean, ultimately, perfectly, in a perfect world, 4 curse tokens. But being able to activate Promise of Power 4 times for 4 tests is like juicy goodness. This is also a great way to start getting your Cryptic Grimoire going, and also like making sure that you can take advantage of the curse pool that you need, the curse cards that you unfortunately need to run, because I say unfortunately not because I think the archetype's bad, but just because if you're just running with just Innsmouth and Core, you're kind of forced into Curse, as Travis was saying, and it might not be the way you want to play, and that's kind of what you have to do with this limited collection. But this one will help not only make you pass tests, but also will help you take advantage of that archetype that exists in your deck. And also, Promise of Power is just sweet. This one as well, if you need to like commit it to a friend to have them pass a test, is also fine. But once again, with Amanda Sharpe, you want to take advantage of your ability whenever you can with your powerful skills that do that. Bryn, I'll pass these ones to you.
All right. We've got a Flashlight. The Flashlight, just 2-costed asset, takes up a hand slot, uses 3 supplies. As an action, spend a supply, investigate. The location gets -2 Shroud for the investigation. Just a solid way to make sure that no matter what numbers you actually have, you can still probably get clues. Works real well with the deduction, because deduction only puts you to 3 book. But with this, it's like you get to investigate at 5 and discover an extra clue on success. And, 3 charges, 3 actions in the turn.
Math checks out.
It's just math.
Also commits for a book, which is nice.
Yeah, yeah. We got the magnifying glass. 1 cost fast. Takes up one of your hand slots. You get +1 book while you're investigating. Just makes getting them clues easier.
Still commits for a book, which is nice.
Yep. We got Dr. Milan Christopher. He's a 4-costed ally. He's got 1 and 2, and he gives you +1 book. And as a reaction effect, after you successfully investigate, gain 1 resource. He's basically just free. Sometimes better than free.
He also commits for a book, which is nice.
Then we got Emergency Cash, which is it's 0, gain 3 resources. This one is pretty much bread and butter for economy options. It doesn't matter how good the cards in your hand are, if you can't afford to pay for them. Unless they're skills, in which case paying for them is different. But if you don't have the resources to put Dr. Milan into play, he can't start doing anything until you do. Like, this one does not have a book icon, which is not so nice.
But you're doing this. You're playing that card for the money.
Yeah. If
you're playing a lot of assets in this deck, and you need a way to play them.
Yeah. You don't ever want to be sitting there spending your actions to gain resources. Just it's not a great plan.
No. Travis, I'll pass these ones to you.
Okay. First up, we have Working a Hunch. This is you can play it for 2 money and play only during your turn. It's fast, discover clue at your location, but its real function is that it commits for 2 books. Wow. So you can use it for 1 clue, or you can use it for potentially 3. Yeah, there are situations where you don't want to play it, but in general, it's here for the +2 books in this deck. Next up, we got Deduction. This commits for a single book, and when it is successful while investigating location, you discover an additional clue at your location. This is one of the 2 really good cards that you can put under Amanda, and the ones that you really want to plan around taking 3 investigate actions with.
Yep.
Then the other one is the Perception here, which commits for 2 books, and if you are successful, you get to draw a card. And this is really, really nice for refilling your hand and just giving yourself more options in the future, as well as being basically worth 2 or 3 clues.
Yeah.
So It's the other one that you kind of want to plan around using multiple times in a turn. And lastly, we got Unexpected Courage. This one's nice because like it lets you get some clues during your turn, and then also gives you defensive stats during the game's turn.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you don't get just crushed by a brain or a foot test. Yeah, not too much to say about it. It's just nice.
Sweet. All right, let's move on to the upgraded cards. We got Skeptic. So this commits for a wild, and during this skill test, treat the modifier of each blessed and each curse token as +1 instead of its normal modifier. So you filled the bag up with curse tokens, and now you're like, I don't believe in that, and then that's good because then you're not getting -2 from your curse tokens. This also is a nice one. You can put it underneath Amanda to take advantage of for the full turn. And I'm just now looking to justify the means. Sorry, I got ahead of myself and I was like, oh my god, what does this mean for Amanda? But yeah, Skeptic's a nice one that you can, like, if you've loaded the thing up with curse tokens, now you can protect yourself from them, and that's some nice option if you want to take it and you're worried about the curse tokens. Justify the Means is a practice and curse. You may commit to any type of test, and as additional cost to commit it, you add curse tokens to the chaos bag equal to this test's difficulty, and this test automatically succeeds. So if for some reason you really... Pardon?
This is Cryptic Grimoire made easy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely, yeah. If it's like one of those things, if you haven't translated it yet, and you're just like, I really want to translate it, let's grab this Justify the Means. You could definitely get it in one turn with Amanda. Like, you just have to do some math, right?
Yeah.
Because I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty confident that, say, for example, you were doing a test and it was like 4, and you can only add 3 curse tokens, I don't think this card would work. Do you guys agree with that? Because it's part of the cost to... You need to actually be able to...
I would agree with that.
Yeah. So...
I mean, that sounds right.
Yeah.
Tentatively.
So, it's... Well, I'm not... Like, let's say we're not saying that is actually how it works. That's just, like, our initial reading. But even just, like, loading it up is good. Or even just getting, like, 3 sure things can also, like, sometimes be, like, you need to just, like... I need 2 clues. I need clues on this 2 shard location each time. And then you benefit from it because your deck is built around curse.
Yeah, no, it is. That is exactly how it works.
Perfect.
Cool. It is because it's an additional cost, right? Like you can't do the thing if you can't pay the cost.
Sweet. Now we have Unrelenting and Signum Crucis. This is kind of like you're working with the blessed side of it a bit. Actually, no, so that's just Signum Crucis. Unrelenting, it's a practice skill, so you can run it as part of your deck building. It commits for a wild, max 1 committed per test, and after you commit it to a skill test, search the chaos bag for up to 3 non-autofail tokens of your choice and seal them on Unrelenting. So you could hide curse tokens on this, or if all 3 tokens sealed on Unrelenting are +1, 0, and a bless, and or the Elder Sign token, draw 2 cards and release all tokens here after this test ends. This is kind of like... Honestly, this actually seems really sick in Amanda, because this can allow you to draw 6 cards on your turn when you're probably just going to be investigating anyway. Like, this can draw anywhere from 2 to 6 cards. That's nice. Because, as Travis said, like, you're going to be seeing a lot of card draw through her ability, but, like, not actually, because you're, like, losing a card each turn as you draw. You're not really, like... You're seeing more cards, but, like, your hand size won't necessarily grow unless you have ways to do it. And like Perception, this is a way that you can do that. And then also, if you fail with this one, you don't care. Signum Crucis commits for a wild, and commit only to a skill test you're performing, and only if the difficulty of that test is higher than your base skill value. After you commit it to a test, add X blessed tokens to the chaos bag, where X is the difference between the skill test, the difficulty, and your base skill value. Your base skill value is always 2, so this is a great way to also add some blessed tokens to the pool as well. You could do it 3 times and maybe add, like... Even if you add, like, 6 blessed tokens, everyone around the table is going to be like, thank you for doing that, as opposed to just adding curse tokens. So if you want to do this weird paradox build with it, you could. Who wants to take these ones?
I can.
Sure.
Alright, so first we have Adrian's Twine. This is a 3 experience card, commits for 2 books, which is always really good. 0 to play, uses 3 secrets, I believe.
Yep.
Takes up an arcane slot, and you can spend the secrets on the Twine as though they were on any asset controlled by an investigator at your location.
Yeah, and it actually comes in with 0 secrets, it says here.
0? Oh yeah, okay. Oh yeah, right. And then, because second ability is a lightning bolt, you can exhaust it to move a secret from your resource, or secret from a thing to your resource pool, or a resource from your resource pool to a card that can use secrets as a secret. So you can, like, once per turn, convert money into secrets or vice versa. And then the twine itself can, like, store them. This is really nice if you intend to go down the Cryptic Grimoire path, because they use secrets, and putting more of them on them is good, because then you get to use them more often. So, next one is Ancestral Knowledge. This one's permanent and exceptional, so you can only have one in your deck. You just get it all the time, and it'll cost you 6 total experience. This says something. Sorry, I can't quite read that.
I'll
read
it out loud for you. I'll read it out loud for you, Travis.
Okay.
Your deck must include at least 10 skills. Your deck size is increased by 5. As a reaction, before you draw your opening hand, attach 5 random non-weakness skills from your deck face down to this card, and then as a lightning bolt, you can exhaust it to draw an attached skill.
This one's a pain for step. It does give you a lot more consistency with regards to the skills that you, well, not the skills that you want, just more consistency in getting skills, which typically have the more powerful effects for Amanda. And also just keeps your hand full, which is really nice.
Yeah.
You get to draw an extra card every turn for like 5 turns, which is great. Then we got 2 Cryptic Grimoires over here. These cost 4 experience piece put into your deck, and they both take up 1 hand slot. They got some symbols on them, but you don't really want to be doing that with them. You can only include their deck if you translate the Grimoire, as all these cards work. The first one is whenever you draw 1 or more curse tokens during a skill test, I think you actually have to resolve them.
Yeah,
but anyway, you put them
one or
in
more
secrets.
of them. Yeah.
Okay. You put a secret on it. And then whenever you play an insight event, you can spend 2 secrets to give that event fast and reduce the cost of it by 1. Which is quite nice if you have many insights in your deck, which lots of the yellow cards are. That one's a little bit stronger. That one gets stronger the bigger your collection is, of course. The other one is probably like where you actually want to be for just having this cycle, which does the same thing where you resolve tokens, you put that many secrets on it, and then when you would draw the top card of the encounter deck, you can spend 5 secrets off it to draw a card from your deck instead.
Sounds sick, man.
Yeah, it's like really nice with because you want to be making lots of tests with Amanda, and then so this one is particularly strong with Amanda because you want to be like playing cards like Deduction and Perception as often as you can. You're ideally making like 2 to 3 tests a turn, which means you're going to be seeing quite a few curse tokens, hopefully, especially in conjunction with cards like Deep Knowledge, the Promise of Power, whatnot. Justify the means. And in addition, you can use Adrian's Twine to keep it full as well.
Yes.
And what this does is not only does it help keep your hand full, but you just don't have to care about making brain or foot. You don't have to care about your garbage defensive stats because you just don't do it.
Yep. Sick.
You just don't do it.
Just don't. All right, I can take these ones because I can read them. We got Blasphemous Covenant. So this is a permanent limit 1 per deck, so it costs 2 experience, and then you just have it all the time. When Investigator at your location reveals a curse token during a skill test, as a reaction, you can exhaust it to treat that token's modifier as +1 instead of its normal modifier. After this test ends, return that token to the Chaos Bag. So this is a way for you to get an advantage out of your curse tokens, and then also just not lose them for the synergy that you want with things like the other stuff we've seen so far in the deck and some of the stuff that's also coming up here as well. If you're going on a curse-heavy build, you're going to want the Covenant. That's just kind of like, it's not as in our last week's video we talked about Sister Mary. I don't think it's like a priority upgrade, but like if you want to go heavy on the curse, this is a nice thing for you to get to make sure you can take advantage of them and not just like have them destroy you suddenly. We got Guided by the Unseen. It commits for a brain and a book. It's a 2-cost, 3 experience ritual asset that takes up a spell slot. It has 4 secrets. And then as a lightning bolt, during a skill test at your location, the performing investigator may search the top 3 cards of their deck for a card that can be committed to this test. You may spend 1 secret to commit that card and then shuffle the performing investigator's deck. Honestly, I'm going to want... What do you guys think of this one? Because this one I still kind of like... I don't really know, like...
Blasphemous Covenant?
Yeah, no, the Guided by the Unseen.
Guided by the Unseen, sorry.
Yeah. Like, the thing is, like, this card's good for, like, a heavy skill deck, but I think with this one, like, if you want to go with it and you just want to make sure you have, like, skills to play, Guided by the Unseen can help you get there. However, there is going to be a little downside. It could be any card that's submitted. It doesn't have to be a skill test, right? Like a skill card, rather. But a lot of the stuff, like, you're going to want to be putting things beneath your Amanda, and this won't do that because it's going to go back into your discard pile when it's done. So, like, you look at it like this, like, what am I using this Guided by the Unseen for? Am I going to be getting, like, 2 symbols from this? Like, do I have, like, 2 symbols that I want on a card that I don't want to put beneath Amanda? So with this one, I think it's like, you're going to want to, like, look at the other assets as opposed to just your skills. I think this card is less about having the skills be played suddenly, but rather, like, using it, like, as a +1 or a +2 to a test 4 times. Right? I think that's kind of the role that this one fits in the Amanda Sharpe deck.
Yeah, this is like kind of like a mini practice makes perfect, especially for Amanda. Like pulling a skill like Deduction out of your deck isn't the worst thing in the world, because in a lot of scenarios, playing Amanda, you draw so many cards, you're going to be going through your deck 2 or 3 times. Like that's just how it is. And yeah, like I think it has applications in Amanda. I think it's probably better in a more general investigator deck.
Yeah.
I do think this one gets better as you like
bigger collection.
Performing investigator, I guess look at the top 3 cards, not you, huh?
Yeah. It's a weird card.
It's a little bit weird.
It is. It's hard to understand truth, like where it like fully fits. But I do think like if you just look at it like the performing investigator gets a +1 or a +2, right? Like being able to like do kind of like a support Amanda, and this can fill a gap if you need. It's a bit expensive experience-wise, of course. You should be selfish and focus more on yourself, but that's kind of the spot it could fit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then we got the Gaze of Orach. So weird. It's a 2-cost event, 2 experience that commits for a fist and a foot. Reveal 7 random chaos tokens from the chaos bag. Deal a total of 1 damage plus 1 additional damage for each curse or autofail token revealed. Divide it as you choose among enemies at your location. This action does not provoke attacks of opportunity. So if you want to kill things and you're going heavy on curse, this is a way to do it. It's not reliable because, you know, maybe you just draw it and then you only get like 1 or 2 and you were like hoping for 3. Like it's like just like chip damage that sometimes can deal a big burst. It's good if you have a lot of enemies at your location, because then if you do get a big burst, you can divvy them out. But it's not like reliable damage, but if you're going heavy on the curse, it's like, it'll probably get you 2.
How many tokens do you get to reveal?
7.
7?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what, like normal token size, bag size is what, like 14 tokens?
15-ish, I think.
So we're assuming that you're like actively putting tokens in the bag and probably have between like 6 and 7. Because I think maintaining 10 is very difficult.
Maintaining 10 is basically impossible.
Yeah, so like if we assume like 6-ish, you're just under 1 in 3 to see a curse token. Just over 1 in 3 because you can hit the autofail too, I guess. You get to throw the dice 7 times, like probably 2-ish, unless you have a reason to have more tokens in the bag. Like there are, if you have 10, obviously the math becomes much better on this. But
yeah, I think this card isn't a card for just fighting random enemies. This is a card that you like plan to use to nuke a big enemy.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
Where like it's not it can't be your only plan, but you know if like your monster killer gets to use 1 less shot of their lightning gun, then like fantastic.
Yeah, and also like this can find a good place in kind of like the flex Amanda Sharpe, where there's like another clue getter, a monster fighter, and you just kind of like are getting clues or like advancing the objective, and then you're like, I'll grab this gaze because I'm also cursing my friends, right? Like,
yeah.
But then once we have a lot to say about the Curse archetype once we get into those videos. This isn't really the place to fully go in that deep. So let's go to Hyper Awareness. This commits for 2 book and 2 foot. Wow. However, it also has this amazing ability where it uses 2 resources, replenish those resources at the start of the round. As a lightning bolt, you can spend a resource from your resource pool or from Hyper Awareness. You get +1 book and +1 foot for this skill test. This one's really nice in Amanda as well because it's basically just, it doubles her book stat and her foot stat if she needs it, but like just getting double book means you're much more likely to get your deduction going, your perception, drawing cards. It's a nice pickup for her deck with a limited collection if you don't want to go heavy in on the curse.
Yeah, if you find yourself playing with the flashlight a lot.
Yeah, definitely.
Upgrade level 4 Hyper Awareness is like a flashlight that just recharges itself every turn.
It's also good with even the cryptographic cipher, right? Because that +1 you can mitigate with half of the resources on this card too to get a free on a low shroud location too, right? Like that's nice. It doesn't look like it's very impressive. It just is going to do a lot of work for once you get it in play. Okay. I'll read those ones again just because I imagine we don't know these cards that well. We got the Stygian Eye. This is a 10 cost, 3 experience event that commits for 3 brain. This is a great defensive card if you want to use it for that. I don't even know what the card does, but just 3 brain is very nice. Fast. Play only during your turn. Reduce the cost to play the Stygian Eye by 1 for each curse token in the Chaos Bag. Until the end of the round, you get +3 to each of your skills. Okay. So here's the question for you guys that I like to always ask. You're much better at the math of the game than I am. At what point does this become a worth it cost to play resource-wise, would you say?
I'd say about 4. I would liken it kind of to Will to Survive.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it depends very much on what skill you have this turn as to how much it is worth to pay it.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you've got an upgraded deduction, or even just an unupgraded deduction, +3 is worth a whole lot more than it would be if you didn't.
Yeah.
You just have like a perception instead.
This one's also weird in that it actually gets worse the cheaper it is, right? Because the more curse tokens you have in the bag, the less likely, the more likely you are to draw one. So then it's if your odds are draw a curse token on game +1 your skill, and if you're drawing 2 curse tokens because you have 10 in the bag or whatever, then it's you're getting, it helps mitigate them. It's not actually a stat boost.
Yeah, really actually
right?
Now that you say that, Travis,
it's curse token mitigation.
Yeah, this card is +1 to all your skills. That's what it's banking on, right?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And it's obviously really good at stuff like deduction if you are this isn't a payoff card, this is a support card.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, it works well if you have the Covenant in play, right? Because then you're getting +4 to your skills and you're that's awesome, right? But
it also lets you see curse tokens with your Cryptic Grimoire and also still potentially accomplish things.
Yeah, so it's kind of just a piece of the puzzle. Wow.
Yeah. Although I am much more willing to pay 5 or 6 for it if it means that I get to use my deduction 3 or 4 times this turn.
Yeah.
That becomes much more useful.
All
Or
right.
possibly my deck has a vicious blow in it.
Yeah.
Any sort of skill that does extra things. I think this card is better if you pay more for it then. But
we got Stirring Up Trouble. This is a 0 cost, 1 experience event that commits for a fist and a book. As an additional cost to play Stirring Up Trouble, add curse tokens to the Chaos Bag equal to your location's shroud value. Discover 2 clues at your location. So this helps you add curse tokens to get your Cryptic Grimoire either filled up with charges, or if you haven't translated it yet, it helps you charge it. And then also, as you can see, it reduces the cost of your Stygian Eye. I think this is a nice card. I think it's just strong. I think it could even sometimes find a home in decks that don't want to go all in on curses.
Trouble is actually I think it's one of my favorite curse and blessed cards from this cycle. I find the design of it to be very elegant.
Mm-hmm.
In that it enables for even a single experience. This is really the curse decks don't have a consistent way really to get to get curse tokens into the bag without a pile of experience or like some other big cost, like the Priest of Two Fates and and Rogue. And this does a really good job of giving you the option to just like get a big burst of curse tokens into the bag to realistically finish a Cryptic Grimoire.
Yeah. The last one here is we got Fey. It's a 1 experience skill that commits for a Brain and 2 Wild. If a curse token is revealed during the skill test, you may return Fey to your hand when this test ends. Honestly, I think this card's pretty great, especially for a limited collection. And honestly, like, it can find a comfortable home in like most of Amanda Sharpe decks, even with a full collection too. 2 Wild for your active turn, and then like 3 Brain to defend yourself during the Mythos phase is pretty good for 1 experience in this deck, especially if you get the, I already forget the name of the card, Ancestral Knowledge, to kind of like potentially even have it there locked up and saved for you that you can just like then draw and just like try to get it into your hand. In addition, I don't know the answer to this question, but I imagine if you do see a curse token on like your 3rd action or during the Mythos phase, you could return this card from beneath her to your hand. I don't see why you couldn't. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I wager that when you lose, when you remove it, obviously if you remove it on like your 1st action, you now don't get the bonus from her thing and you're working with 2s. But that'd be something that maybe someone on YouTube, they're pretty good at knowing those weird rules. They'll comment down below. But I think this card sits pretty good, especially for a limited collection. It'll do great in your Amanda Sharpe deck, especially for obviously a heavy curse one, but even for not a heavy curse one. Bryn, I'll hand the core sets to you.
Got the Disc of Exama. It's a 3-cost asset that takes up your accessory slot, and as a reaction effect, when a non-elite enemy spawns at your location, you can discard it and discard that enemy. It also commits for a bunch of symbols, but playing with mostly 3s is probably not your best bet.
Mm-hmm.
It'll work if you have nothing else. But we've got Upgraded Magnifying Glass. The difference here is that it costs 0 instead of costing 1, and as a Lightning Bolt effect, if there are no clues on your location, you can pick it up, which is kind of handy, especially if you've got maybe another hand slot asset that you want to play, or even just you want to commit it to a book test that isn't an investigation. You could do that too.
Hell yeah.
Then we got Cryptic Research, which it's just 0 fast, play only during your turn. Choose an investigator at your location. That investigator draws 3 cards. Now, you can use this to draw anyone 3 cards, but let's be real, you're using it to draw yourself 3 cards.
Yeah, be greedy.
You paid 4 XP for it, you get to draw the cards.
Yep.
And once again,
anyway,
that's
drawing
good.
3 cards for no actions is like real good.
Yeah, and that's good because you're going to want to make sure you have the skills when you want them in this deck.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's Amanda Sharpe. I had lots of fun playing with her yesterday, and I do agree with Travis that this is kind of like the problem with the entirety of the limited collection for Innsmouth Conspiracy, is you're kind of just like a lot of your cards feed a specific archetype. But I think you'll still have fun, and then as you get more and more cards, especially if you can get access to Practice Makes Perfect, oh boy, then things get really spicy. We'll be back in a few days. We're going to be pushing these out at a faster rate, so I think we're going to be back either on Tuesday or Wednesday to talk about Trish Scarborough and her new player guide, so we will see you then. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a good one, and as always, GG's.